Hi, moms and everyone else, dads also. Um, this is Monica Shimonik. I am the founder of Moms Unshackled, and what I do, excuse me, is I work with divorced moms who have lost their children in family court. I help them heal from PTSD, and I help them shed the family court toxicity, and I help them establish a new maternal identity so that they can become a legacy to their community and for their children. And um, I this is kind of a on the fly live stream today because a couple minutes ago I was talking to somebody and she said, how did you heal from the family court abuse? Like, how is it that you healed and I didn't? And this is like a question that I get quite a bit. People either think that what I went through wasn't really that bad because if it was so bad, then I wouldn't be a healer. I wouldn't be working with moms who've been abused in the system, and I would not be. Hi, David. Thank you for joining. They say that if I went through all the suffering and everything, there's no way I could be a health coach for moms who've suffered in the legal system if I had a bad situation. Um, maybe I just lost a little bit in court and it was kind of bad, and now I just heal mothers all over the place. Um, so people have actually had that misconception, and that's my own fault. The reason they have that is because I don't share my personal story enough. It's in my book, but not everybody has read my book. So um, I'm just gonna just start from the beginning of how I healed myself from my horrifying family court story and losing my son, who's now 12, who I still don't have access to. Hi, Joyce. This is good that you're on here, Joyce, because I know that you heal people with your music. So everybody has their gifts, and that's part of what I do is I help moms, find their gifts so that they can be a legacy to their children because there's no prototype for moms like us. The moms either have custody of their kids and they go to PTO meetings and bake sales and they go to Boy Scout meetings and birthday parties. So there's those moms. And then there's moms who really don't care about their kids, who just pawn them off on grandparents, or they've had their kids taken away because they didn't want them. You know, there's those moms, and then there's moms like us who are perfectly loving, capable, willing, fit moms who did nothing wrong but don't have their kids. Yes, kids do suffer, Carrie, absolutely. So there's this middle, there's this like unknown, population of moms who don't have their kids but are also not crack hoes. I'm going to start saying crack hoe all the time because people just go crazy when I say it because it resonates because they know that they're not crack hoes, but they don't have their kids. So anyway, so there's the mothers who, are couch surfing, drug addict mothers, who don't prioritize their role as a mother. Then there's the loving married or unmarried mothers who are with their kids all the time. And then there's us. We are the mothers who are great people, but we don't have our kids. So anyway, people are always asking like, well, how did you heal? How did you get better? And a lot of times people will say, well, you healed because you have XYZ. You have something that I don't, and that's Monica. That's why you healed, and I'm not healing because I don't have what you have. And it's just it's comical because there's a lot of things I don't have that a lot of you might have. So, we all have like, our circumstances, we all have like pros and cons. Like some people lose their kids, and they still have like a good amount of money. They still might have like $10,000 in the bank where they can invest in really good therapy or really, like a good treatments, like good, I don't know, whatever's expensive that people use for healing, good medication, I guess, really good counseling. So some people have the money to purchase services that could help them, and some people don't. Some people have really good DNA where they're not prone to certain behaviors like alcoholism, PTSD, So there's certain genetic advantages that some people might have. Some people don't have a lot of money, don't have, or getting really sick, but they have a great support system. They have their parents are right down the street, or they have their best friends who understand what they're going through because they went through it, and they have a wonderful support system. Some people haven't really lost a whole lot of their rights. They still have some access to their kids, and they have, say, primary decision making with a lot of their kids' legal issues, um, medical issues, educational issues. So they still have some rights over those aspects of their parental rights. And so there's different like variables here where some others are not doing so well at all, and they're not even employable because they're so sick from all the legal abuse they went through in the court system. And some moms are very high functioning, for whatever reason, they just are. And so people will often assume that I healed because my case wasn't that bad, or I'm just like super powerful. I'm none of those things. I'm just a regular person like you. I suffered tremendously for 21 months. I suffered. I took steps to get out of my suffering. I'm no longer suffering. I have days where I suffer, okay, but I'm no longer a suffering person. Does that make sense? So I'd say I have maybe 4 days a year where I'm just in a really crappy mood, and I cry and I miss my son, and I feel like I'm back to like 2010, where I was just being abused constantly by the court system and everything was just terrible. So I do have days like that where I'm like completely regressed in my healing. And so, but I'm not a sick person anymore. Is that package for me? Okay, I just got a package in the mail. Ironically, the thing that I ordered is a bunch of things that help heal the digestive system, and I do it for preventative health. So that's one thing I do, is I do tons of preventative health. So I'm going to go back and say that I was very sick for 21 months because of my legal abuse, because I got my son taken away from me, and lost all my parental rights. I just lost all my money. I lost, I think, $16,000 in the first year. And I think I lost like $8,000 the second year. It was something like that. So I lost all my money, and I also lost, I think I lost all my friends, all of them, except for one. Her name is, and I'm going to say her name. Her name is Melanie Yost. Melanie, if you're watching this, you are literally the only person that's ever stuck by me. Okay, don't cry. So anyway, lost all my money, lost my health, lost my friends, and I lived in a studio apartment in the poor section of town. And what else? And I was only 31. So, and when I say that I was sick and unhealthy, this is what I mean. Let me just take a sip of coffee. Okay, I'm going to sit down my coffee because I'm going to show you something. So this is a circle. We have a wheel. And if you're one of my clients, you would get an actual diagram of what I'm talking about. So there's a circle. And each piece of the circle is an aspect of your health. In our society, we tend to think health is like you're taking the right medication, you're eating your vegetables, and you're like, I don't know, exercising. Like we tend to think of health as like eating and exercising and how many medications you're taking. If you're only on one medication, maybe you're healthier than someone who's on like 5. So that's like the tiniest little definition ever of what health is. But in my program, health has 8 different, areas. There's 8 different areas of health. There's like your creativity. Like, are you a creative person? Do you want to be more creative, or is that like stunted and suffocating? The suffocating, the suffocation of your creative juices, I believe, is unhealthy. Someone like Joyce Catalano is always playing music, so that aspect of her is very healthy. We have our spirituality. If we're feeling spiritually suffocated and void, then you're not going to be very healthy. If you don't have a good support system, if you don't have a good loving social circle, that's going to make you unhealthy. If you are stuck, if you're not living your purpose, if you're not living your vision, I believe that can lead to an unhealthy life. If you're not eating the right foods, that's kind of like the Western model. Eat the right foods and you'll be healthy. If you're not eating the right foods, that's not healthy. If you're not exercising, you're not healthy. So then, there's 8 different aspects, and I just kind of went through most of them. And so where I was sick and where I was unhealthy back when I was in my 21-month, vortex, that's what I like to call it, my toxic vortex of family court hell. Where I was suffering was I was entering into the wrong romantic relationships that were very, very restrictive, and I wasn't valued in those relationships, and those relationships made me unhealthy because it was a manifestation of my self-worth. Like, I did not value myself, so therefore I sought out partners that didn't value me, just to kind of mirror how I felt about myself. So that was a big aspect of why I was not a healthy person during that time period. And that is actually something that lasted quite a number of years. I think that lasted like quite a couple of years. It went on up until I got married to my husband. So I married him 4 years ago. So that was a big chunk of my health issues. I was also spiritually void. Like, I didn't have any purpose. I didn't have any visions for myself. I didn't have an idea of when I had my son in 2006, I felt like, I'm going to have this little boy, I'm going to raise him to be a good person, and life is going to be great. So this little boy is taken from me. He's 3 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, now what? Like, now what? Like, I see him 36 hours a week. I don't have any legal rights to him. And he's only 3. So what's next in my life? Like, what do I do now for the next 15 years if I can't raise this child? And I still don't have him back. He's still not with me. Not even a quarter of the time he's with me. So I don't have any legal rights to him. So this is still a thing. Like, it's been 9 years and I still don't have those things. But when he was taken away from me, I was like, okay, well, what do I do now with my life? If I'm not raising this little boy, what's my life going to look like? And that was very scary for me. And I was 31 and I just had no clue what to do. So there was that aspect of my life that was just void and vacant and stripped down, and just I was not in a good place. It was very dark and very, so and that kind of impacted my self-worth as well. I had a lot of mindset issues, which impacted my mental health, because that's a big deal. So my mental health really wasn't that great. I had very few friends. I don't think I had any friends, actually. I really don't think I had any friends. Yeah, I will just safely say I had like no friends from the time my court issue started until I got involved in advocacy work. Now I have like so many friends that I just love, who are just amazing people. So anyway, what else was I missing? So I'll tell you what I had going for me though. When my son was taken, I was still eating very healthy. I was eating lots of leafy greens, lots of fruits and veggies. I was a vegan. I ate very, 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 very well during the entire process. And I exercised a decent amount, not a lot, but I didn't do nothing. So I was okay there. And I was creative. I was painting and writing and, doing nice things like that. And so I was good there. But anyway, I really wasn't like as good as I could have been. I knew I could have been better. And ironically, I was actually a healer at the time that I had my son taken. I was already working in the healing industry. So I tapped into a lot of those behaviors, like, meditation and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of was able to coast along, but I was just miserable. I didn't have my son. And the big, massive thing that I'm going to share with you, from the day I entered court, which was January 9th, 2010, until the day I decided I was no longer going to be a victim, That was September 26, 2011. So that's a 21-month time period. I was a victim. I called myself a victim. I thought of myself as a victim. I had a victim mindset. I felt like it was up to the universe to come and save me from this evil family court. I was waiting around for someone to save me. I wanted to be saved. I put 100% of my, actually, I put, yeah, probably 100% of my healing and my solutions, I guess you could say is the right word, into other people. That would be my mom, my stepmother, my father a little bit, and my partner at the time. I wanted them to come in and save me. Oh, and my lawyer. Oh my God. I treated my lawyer as my personal therapist, and my lawyer was like this 75-year-old man. So that really was not a good fit. Nice guy. I mean, I hired him because he was a former special education teacher, and I have a son with autism. So I hired him for that reason, but he didn't make a good therapist. So not a whole lot of relatability there, Um, so I used my lawyer as my personal therapist, and that gets very expensive, and it's also not effective. So do not do that. It's so tempting to just dump all your drama on your lawyer because your lawyer knows your case better than you do. But don't do that. It's not going to get you what you want, and it's going to be very expensive. So the other thing is, okay, so my mindset was just I was just in complete victim mode for 21 months. I would wake up miserable and I wanted the world to come and save me. I was waiting for this magical thing to happen. Like maybe one day the judge will wake up and realize he made a mistake and I'll get my kid back. Maybe my ex will wake up and I'll get my kid back. And I wasted all that time. I wasted 21 months of my life, and I will never get that time back. And I was not doing a single thing to help myself. I really wasn't. Just because I was eating healthy food doesn't mean I was really helping myself. So I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to go into how I healed myself. But I first want to read some of these comments. Because one thing I hate is when I watch a live stream and I'm writing something and they're not listening to me. So somebody's saying something really good. I want to see what they wrote. Carrie Linman. Sorry, gosh. Courts should think about the psychos doing this to any child and parent. Yes, against Mother Nature. Their neurological pathway is damaged. That's really beautiful. I hope you give me permission to use that line, because that's a very accurate and very that's a great statement. I'd like to use that. Court since 2004. Oh my gosh, so that's what, 14 years, Carrie. So I'm going to share with you now how I went from being a victim into being where I'm at now, which is healed, and I can honestly say that I love my life and I'm very happy. And I'm going to tell you what I did to kind of get to that point. So, before I go into what I did, though, I want to say I think it's normal and healthy to be in a victim mindset for a little while. It's completely normal. Like what Carrie just said, it was so great. I'm going to read it again. She said, against Mother Nature, so their neurological pathway is damaged. Yes, I'm actually going to like your comment right now, because what she's saying is so accurate. Like Mother Nature isn't going to allow you to just be like, oh, I had my kid taken away, let me just be healthy and la la la. Like that is not going to happen. You are going to fall into a gigantic vortex. Like you're going to hate your life. When my son was taken, I knew that I was going to lose my son the day I walked into court, because of the way I was treated by the custody evaluator. And my attorney actually told me that day that I was going to lose. And it took another 14 months for me to actually lose my son on paper. Like it took 14 additional months for the judge to actually take him away. But my lawyer told me the day I walked into court that I was going to lose everything. And So I was already starting that descent into the vortex that day. And so the reason my attorney told me that I was going to lose my son because I had him tested for autism when he was 18 months old. And my lawyer said the custody evaluator doesn't believe in autism. And she's going to hate you for getting him tested, and she's going to make sure that you lose. She said something of that to that effect. So, by the way, my custody evaluator, she was 74 years old, and she is like, I'm just going to say, she's like the biggest bitch on the planet. Like she's literally the worst person I've ever known. And she retired, and she's the one person left that I need to face her before she dies and just give her a piece of my mind and let her know what she did. Um, but, but it makes me laugh to think about that because I have learned to add humor to my situation. And I really hope you all get there someday because it's a much better place to be. But anyway, she was 74 then, so she's coming close to 85. So I need to definitely meet her before she dies. So anyway, so you're going to, if you're in litigation right now and you lose your child like next week or something, you are going to plunge into a vortex. Like there's nothing you could do about that. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be like the most healthiest, most evolved person out there, and if you get your kid taken away, you're just going to become just like useless for a while. And that's because of the neurological pathways. It's basically like, not to say dads don't have a bond with their children, because I know they do. That's been proven and all that. But mothers, I believe when mothers lose their children, especially when their children are under the age of 5, it feels like castration. So my son was 3, and so there's nothing you could do. Mother Nature is going to get you into that vortex, and you can't get out of it for a while. But what I'm saying is I don't believe mothers have to be toxic and victimized for 21 months. I think that's too long. That's where I was. And there is a way to shorten that process. But anyway, so what I did, the biggest game changer, you're not going to like this. If you're watching this, you're not gonna like what I'm about to tell you. The biggest game changer that launched me into healing was the conscious decision which I made on September 26, 2011. I believe that was a Thursday. 99% sure that was a Thursday. It was cold. It was kind of like chilly, but it was still a day where it was like it was like early fall, so people were still feeling like they could wear shorts. So I remember I was wearing like shorts and like a tank top that day and no shoes. And basically what happened was my ex somehow wound up at my house with my son because my ex would do this thing where he would dangle parenting time in my face. He would say, I'll let you see Elias for like 2 hours on this day. And of course I was like, yeah. And that's another bad thing about my situation, was that I was constantly begging for more parenting time from my ex. And I was doing things to make him happy so that he would bring my son to me more often. And that was just a whole toxic, unhealthy dynamic that the court purposely creates for parents. They love to put parents in polarized positions of power so that they could, create more of that toxicity and that abusive patterns and the codependency, because the narcissistic parent actually depends on you as the non-narcissist to have a reaction to the narcissism. It's a system that has to exist, that has to coexist. The court needs a parent like you to be groveling for more rights and more parenting time. And the court needs that narcissistic parent. So that creates like the cycle of toxicity that the court profits from. And that's why they do this. If they made everything equal, then that dynamic would not exist. So anyway, there was a day in the September 26 where, my ex like brought my son to me, and like I was supposed to like do some stupid favor for him. I don't remember what it was. I think I had to give him more child support or something like that. And I agreed. I said, yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want. Just bring him over. I want to see him. And so my ex brought my son over, and then like I must have said something or done something that my ex didn't like, but he grabbed my son and threw him in the back of the car. And my son was still young enough to need like a booster seat. So he literally just like threw him in the back of the car and like peeled down the peeled out of my driveway and just tore down the street. And so I was still the victim. You know, the family court took my son, the family court took all my money. You know, life's not fair, life is bad, I'm sick. You know, I had already been without my son for 21 months. And so I was just in a very devolved, dark, toxic state of mind for a long time, almost 2 years now. So what I did, I freaked out, started screaming at the top of my lungs out in my driveway with all my neighbors around, and I started running after the car barefoot. And I was stepping on acorns and pine cones and sticks. You know, if you live in New England, you'll know that there's like so much stuff that falls out of the sky in autumn. It's crazy. And I'm running, and I'm barefoot, and I'm running after my ex's car with my son crying in the backseat of the car, um, screaming, like swearing, screaming, and just acting like a crazy person. Okay. And I realized, because the car went faster than I could, so I was only able to run like, you know, an eighth of a mile. And I realized that I had become the crack hoe mother, right? Remember what I talked about in the beginning? You have good mothers who are with their kids, who do like the PTA meetings. You have crack hoe mothers that are couch surfing and dumping their kids off on family members. And then you have mothers like us who are good parents but don't have their kids. By running after this car, screaming and cursing, and I don't even think I was wearing a bra or something. Like I wasn't properly dressed. Like I think I was wearing like some clothes that I wouldn't normally walk out of the house with. Screaming, cursing, crying, running barefoot, stepping on stuff all the way down the street. And I stopped and I was like, oh my God, this is bad. Okay. I should not be doing this. This is not the life I want at all. And it was instant. It was a 180 mindset shift. Okay. And I turned around and I started walking back to my house. And it was a long walk because I had just ran like, you know, for like 2 minutes, you know. And I was walking. Now my feet are like cold and numb, and my feet are all hurt now because I'm stepping on pine cones and stuff. And all I could think of was, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm done. Like I am done with this crappy mindset, this crappy victim screaming and yelling, crying. Like I'm so done with that. And I remember I was like, oh God, I hope this is not a temporary thing where I'm going to feel good. Like I'm going to feel like I'm going to change. And then like I go back to my old ways. Like I was afraid that I was going to do that. I was afraid that I was going to, you know, feel bad about my behavior, but then like flip around and become a victim all over again the next day. Like I didn't trust myself to actually have a mindset shift and have a breakthrough in my thinking. And so I was worried about that. So I went home. I think I like lit some candles and I like played on my guitar a little bit. I'm not a guitar player by the way. I just was at the time I wanted to be, so I was playing around. And so I made the decision. It was instant that I was going to forgive my ex and forgive the court system and forgive that nasty evaluator who I hate so much. Her name is Ricky Wassenberg, by the way, and I will absolutely talk about her. I will say her name out loud to everybody who's listening. She's the one who is responsible for my son being taken away from me. I decided to forgive her. I decided to forgive the court, the judges, all the people involved. I decided to forgive the friends I had who assumed I was a crack hoe, and that's why I lost my son. I forgave everybody. I said, forget it. Like, I'm done. And I just threw all that negativity back into the universe, you know. And I felt fine. Like, I felt completely fine after that. Like, I just enjoyed the rest of my night. I think I just messed around on my guitar. I probably read a book and I went to sleep. And I'm going to tell you something. This is absolutely true. This was September 26, 2011. We are now in 2018. It's been more than 7 years since that day. I am still in the exact same mindset today as I was then. And I think I only blipped back into the vortex like maybe once or twice. But the thing is this, when I blipped back down, I knew I was there. I was like, whoa, 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 I'm back in the victim thing. Let me get out of this. And I literally like came right back out, like within 20 minutes or something. So what I'm saying is you can make the decision to flip your mindset immediately. It doesn't have to be like this long process. Like you don't have to wait around for things to get better in court before you make the decision to get better. You can heal yourself right away. And so that was a tremendous turning point for me in my healing. So like I said, I was sick for 21 months, massive mindset shift on that day in September. And that propelled me into healing. And it still took me a lot of time. Like I literally don't even think I was really healed until maybe the early 2017. So we're looking at like 18 months where I've been about as healed as I'm going to be. I wasn't healed enough to even run my own health coaching business until 2017. I was a health coach for many, many years, but I didn't feel like I was in integrity with my healing enough to work with other moms. So that took me a long time. That took me another 4 years of healing on top of that. There was other major milestones that I had to hit before I could heal more. It's not like, you just make the decision to heal and you heal. Like I had to do a lot of other things to heal, but things that are kind of untraditional, like they're non-traditional. It's not about eating more leafy greens because I was already doing all that and I still wasn't feeling good. I still missed my son. I was still crying all the time. I was still choosing the wrong partners. I was still feeling spiritually, void and deprived. So there's other major checkpoints that I had to get to heal more and more and more. But the very first launching point was that day when I made the mindset shift to forgive. And nobody wants to forgive. Like I get it. Like people think like if you forgive, then your ex is just going to be a jerk more if you forgive your ex. Well, no. My ex was a complete jerk to me prior to me forgiving him, and he's still a jerk to me even after I've forgiven him. He has not changed. That is a very continuous pattern on him. He still treats me exactly the same way as he always has. So me forgiving him didn't make him worse. It didn't make him better. It didn't make him worse. Like it didn't do anything. Like he's still going to treat me the way he treats me. So don't feel like if you forgive somebody, you're going to make them worse or you're going to make them better. It's not about them. Like forget about who they are, like what they do. When you make the decision to forgive people, you stop caring about you. When you make the decision to forgive somebody who's hurt you so much, you actually stop thinking about them. You don't really, and you begin to not care what they think or what their motives are or what they're going to do or how bad they wronged you. Like you're not going to think about those things. I never think about my ex. I mean, it's just kind of funny. Like I think about him like when I pull into the driveway to bring my son to his house, and I think like, and that's it. Like I don't, and if I have to like file a motion in court, like I know I have to like send him a copy, then I'll think about him. I'm like, oh, that's right. He exists, but I don't think about him, like ever. He does not take up any space in me at all. The judges, they were a little bit harder to forgive. But I really don't let them, I don't think about them. I don't think about any of these people. And when you make the decision to forgive your enemies, you will free up so much space in your mind and in your consciousness. Your life will just have a sharper vision. Like you'll be able to see into your future more clearly. You'll be able to think, because you kind of become like more selfish. Like you start to think more about yourself, which is good because you have been deprived of so much. You've had so much taken from you, your money, your dignity, your reputation, there's so much was taken from you that by forgiving these people, you actually end up becoming more focused on yourself. And that is very, very healing. So that's what I mean by selfish. I'm going to stop for a second and read the comments. Um, okay. These are some good comments. I like what you guys are saying. I'd like to know what you guys think about forgiving though, because I have tried to work with moms on this, and this is a major roadblock for a lot of moms. They have a hard time making that leap. They think if they forgive, they're letting go, they're letting more of their power be taken away from them. It's actually the opposite. When you forgive, you actually take back a ton of power, and it's a survival technique, because I can't even imagine living this way for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I cannot imagine living in like that kind of toxicity for that long. I would have developed an autoimmune disorder by now. The PTSD, that will never go away. I know I'll always have it, but the PTSD has not accumulated in my body as like a disease. Um, I have it, but it's not, I occasionally I'll get like nightmares and like your random PTSD symptoms, but it has not accumulated into a pathology or like a disease in my body. Um, so anyway, that's just the first piece of my healing journey. I mean, I think I have like 5 other, pieces that I went through from 2010 to today. There's some significant checkpoints, but the point is, you don't have to have a lot of money to heal. You don't have to have a lot of friends to heal. You don't have to have a lot of outside resources to get better. You can heal yourself. You know, you really can. Like, I healed myself. I didn't have a coach helping me or working with me. It took me many, many years to get to where I'm at now. Like I said, I don't think I've really considered myself healed until like the early part of 2017. So I was already 7 years deep when I considered myself as a healed person. But I do have a phenomenal system, where I guide mothers through a process. It's 12 weeks, and like I said, in 12 weeks, I work with mothers who have PTSD, who've been abused by the family courts, who had their kids taken away. I work with them and I help them reclaim their health and manage the PTSD, and create a new identity. Because like I said, we don't have an identity. That's something that we struggle with. We're not crack hoes, and we're not like, um, PTO moms. We're somewhere in that weird gray area. So I help them determine what that identity is. I help them, create a legacy for their children. Like, you can absolutely do that. That's actually one of the best parts of my program. Um, and so if you are interested in getting to that place, or just simply want to have a discovery session with me, find out if what I offer is the right fit for you, you can book a discovery session with me, and I will put my link um, in the chat box. But if you want to just look me up now, the link is www.momsunshackled.com/free dash consult, and I will post that. But just consider that you do have the resources within you to heal. You have what it takes to heal. Anybody could heal from this. I truly believe that anybody can. So I'm going to close, and I appreciate all the comments, and I appreciate you coming on and listening to me today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.